Hi guys, welcome back to the Breaking Butterfly podcast and welcome back to part 3 of my series about becoming your highest self. I'm so excited you guys are here and I'm so just grateful and ecstatic that you guys are loving this series because I was kind of in like a drought a little bit. Like, of course I have so many things I want to share with you guys, but I was like in a drought with like my direction and where I wanted to head next. And once it like landed to do this series, I was so excited about it, but I did not know like the effect that it was going to have on like you guys and my listeners. And like this series is by far the most listened to episodes that I have on Breaking Butterfly, except for like my first episode and like another episode because it blew up on TikTok or whatever. But like out of all my episodes, even with guests and whatnot, like this series has been everything. And I'm so grateful you guys are loving it because I'm loving it. And I am super excited, especially excited for today's episode because it's part 3 and we're going to be talking about creating yourself. So if you haven't listened to the other first 2 episodes of this series, the first one is about aligning your values, the second one is about coming home to yourself, and this third one is about creating yourself. So I told you guys in last week's episode that like these 2 episodes are kind of like contradictory to each other almost, because it's like last week I was saying that your highest self is already within you, it's not outside of you, and you need to just like come home to like your soul pretty much, right? Like that was the message. And this week I'm like completely the opposite of like, I still don't think that your highest self is outside of you or it's somebody different than you, but we're going to be kind of talking about like the actual like the creation, right? The creation, that what is like quote unquote outside of you. It's still within you, but it takes a little bit of work to actually create like this higher self, right? So I'm really excited for this episode and what I want to share with you guys. Did I have any announcements that I wanted to share? I don't think so. I think just the hotline, just mentioning the hotline again. I've been getting a couple voicemails there and it's really fun and really exciting. So if you have any questions about like the content from the last 2 weeks, I mean really any episode of course, but if you have any questions about this series and anything that I talked about, or you want like advice on how to apply it actually to your life, call in to the hotline. The phone number is in the show notes. I know that it actually wasn't when I said that the last time. Like if you're listening in time with my episodes, like when they come out, the last 2 times I said that the number was in the show notes, it actually wasn't, but now it is. So the number is in the show notes. You can find that down below, or wherever you find it on Apple Podcasts. And call in and leave a message. You can ask questions, you can ask for advice, whatever you are feeling, and I will be able to answer those on the air. I'm just not doing them yet because I'm like just like in this series, but I think I'm only going to do one more episode of this series, have like 4 parts, and then we'll get back to answering all of those questions and advice and a couple other exciting episodes I have planned. So okay, where are my notes? So let's talk about creating yourself. So when it comes to becoming your highest self, like a big part of it is consciously creating, right? I believe that we are perfect just as we are, of course, but there's this aspect of becoming our highest self where we are consciously creating ourselves and our life and how we want to look and how we want to be and where we want to be and how we want to decorate our homes and all of these things that helps us create like this higher version of us, because ultimately like the higher version of ourselves is somebody who is deliberate and intentional about how they look, how they speak, how they act, how they feel, how, like where they are. When I picture my highest self, it's someone that has like, you know, she knows so clearly what she wants and how she wants to feel and where she wants to be and what she wants to be doing, and she like doesn't take no for an answer. You know what I mean? Like, she's somebody that is just so clear on, this is how I live my life and this is who I am, and nobody can like come in the way of that. And she has like very strict boundaries, almost, because it's very important to her that she lives the way that she wants to live and that she just is the way that she wants to be. So when it comes to creating yourself and committing to creating someone that you love, right? Like, when you're falling in love with yourself, you're loving yourself just for who you are. But then I think a big part of my journey, so like when I went from absolutely hating myself to like falling in love with myself, like it's a night and day difference. It was just in an energy session last night where she was like, we were talking about like relationships and like an ex, where like I was in a relationship and I like hated myself the whole time. And she was like, we were talking about it, she's like, is this bringing up like any emotions for you? Like, can you like feel what it used to feel like? And I was like, honestly, no, because that feels so far away and it feels so like far behind me, almost like in like another lifetime. Like, I don't even know who that old version of me was, or it's just hard for me to like feel that because it feels so like foreign to me. But like I hated myself. It was totally different realities. I hated myself. Now I absolutely love myself. Part of it was just loving who I am for who I am, but part of it was me stepping up and saying like, okay, I don't like this part of me, or like I don't like this thing that I'm doing. Okay, instead of just sitting here and being like, okay, I guess I'll just try and love myself through it, I stood up and said, no, like I don't want to be that way. Like, for example, like just being lazy, right? Like I would just be so lazy at that point in my life. And so finally I was just like, okay, I don't want to be lazy anymore. And I fucking changed it. Or like I hate like how I'm taking care of myself, like how I'm dressing, how I'm doing my makeup. Okay, it doesn't mean I'm not beautiful. At that time I didn't feel beautiful, but like finally I got to a point where I said, okay, it's not that I'm not beautiful, it's that like I'm not creating myself the way I want to create. I'm not like taking care of myself and using the makeup I want to use and going out and buying the clothes that I want to buy and expressing myself in the way I want to express myself. And I was able to like hit this point where I could look at all of these things that I didn't like about myself. And some things, I know, I don't want this episode to come off wrong, like I'm saying like to be your highest self, like you need to be someone else, you know, or to love yourself, you need to be someone else. It's not what I mean at all. Like I don't want you guys to take this way at all, that like for you to be lovable, you need to change. I just think there's this aspect of like, once I started looking at all of the things that I didn't love about myself, and I was like, okay, I want to change these things. Like I want to be better. I want to change for myself. And I started wearing what I loved. I started doing what I loved. I started hanging out with who I loved. I started eating what I loved. I started being where I wanted to be. That's when I really fell in love with myself, because I was doing the things that I loved, and I fell in love with what I was creating. Like, think about if you went on The Sims, like you were playing The Sims, and I told you like make a character on here that you're just like obsessed with. Like you make your little sim and you make her wear what she wants to wear and all of the traits and things, and just make someone that you're like, oh my god, I wish I was this person. You can do that with yourself. You can literally do that with yourself. Of course, there's still gonna be like aspects of ourselves that we like can't change. It's just like innately who we are, and we have to like learn to love those things. But it becomes a lot easier to love your you know, your weaknesses or your downfalls or whatever. You know, love the things that you feel are not lovable when you're creating someone that you're absolutely obsessed with. Like now I look at the things that maybe I don't love about myself, or I'm like, oh, like, you know, well, actually, I don't really feel like I have those things anymore. Or maybe they're just completely irrelevant to me. They used to be my whole reality, but I don't feel like I have those things anymore because I just created so many things that I do love, that now in my mind and who I am, like my perspective of myself is just someone that I'm obsessed with and I just like love. you know? I guess there are like some things, I'm trying to think of like what I don't love. I guess I'm just trying to like explain that like I understand that there's some things we can't change and we just have to like love ourselves through it. But I really feel like when you start creating yourself, like there's very little of that. There's very little like things where you're just like, oh, but I still hate this about myself. Like, no, because you're creating this like who you want to be. Yeah, anyway, sorry. I'm just like going off on a little tangent, but you have to create who you want to be in this world. You have to create how you want to feel and how you want to live. It doesn't just like happen to you, you know? If you don't have like the discipline, or you're not you know, working on yourself and creating habits to be the type of person that you want to be, you can't sit there and say like, oh, I hate myself, when you haven't even tried to become someone who you would love. Does that kind of make sense? I hope that kind of makes sense. And again, I'm going to put the disclaimer out there that this does not mean that you are unlovable just as you are right now. I am unlovable, or I am lovable when I am gross and I haven't showered and I'm being lazy and I'm like sleeping in and I'm eating bad foods and all of these things, and I'm just being weird when I say something stupid. I'm still lovable in those moments, but I found this whole new like energy of self-love when I put energy and time into my creative process. So it's not about becoming someone else, it's becoming you at your best, right? It's almost like thinking of yourself like a piece of artwork. And if you sit in front of your painting and you're just like, you know, putting paint on your fingers and just like kind of like moving your hand over the canvas and just like, whatever, I don't really give a fuck about this painting, so I'm just gonna whatever finger paint and just put some paint on the canvas, boom, I'm done. It's like, of course you're not gonna be like passionate about your artwork, but when you sit down with your canvas and you put time and energy and love and passion into like putting your paintbrush on the canvas and painting and like putting your energy into creating it, it's like, yeah, you look at your artwork and you're like, damn, that's pretty fucking good. Like, this is really beautiful. So I think what I'm trying to say here when it comes to creating yourself, it's thinking of yourself like a piece of art. It's thinking of yourself like a piece of art, and then working on that canvas. Because guys, life is too short to not be wearing what we want to wear and feeling how we want to feel and being who we want to be and doing what we want to do and spending our time on what we want to spend time on. Like, it's too short. It's too short to not be doing all of those things. So how do we actually do this? How do we actually create ourselves? I mean, it's pretty simple, I feel, but there's like 3 steps that I want to talk about. And it's visualize, plan, execute. But like, these are the steps for really anything. It's like, visualize what you want to do, plan what you're going to do, and then do what you're going to do. But we're still going to walk through these 3 steps, and I just have things to say about each of them. So let's talk about visualizing for a sec, because I don't talk about visualizing a lot on my podcast, because I'm usually talking about more, I don't know. I don't visualize a ton. That's why, is I don't visualize a ton. But when I do, I have some crazy revelations and visions and breakthroughs. I'm just not really like, when it comes to creating my life, I'm like a lot more masculine. So sometimes it takes me some time to like sit my ass down and visualize. But things always come through. Like, you know, how I was talking about a couple weeks ago with my couch and having my pink couch and my pink neon sign that says Breaking Butterfly. Like, these were all things that came to me in a vision. Or when, actually, it's funny that I'm wearing white right now, because I had this, like, I did a highest self visualization a couple months ago, and I was wearing like all white, but I was wearing like a white button down and like white linen pants, and my hair was like parted in the middle and it was like super curly. And I don't know why. I didn't think of that. It just almost like came to me, like downloaded to me as I was doing this visualization. But I get these visions of who I want to be or what I want things to look like. And I think it's so, so powerful to allow ourselves to sit and allow whatever needs to come through so that we can, like, it's almost like letting our subconscious shine through to show us like what we actually want, if that makes sense, of what we actually want. Because when we just sit here and think like, okay, what do I want? Like, how do I want things to look? How do I want to look? How does my highest self look? Maybe for some of you that's really easy and you're like, oh, I know exactly. Like, yeah, like easy. I know what I want. I know how I want things to look. For me, it's not so easy. And so visualizing and like going into a meditation and sitting there and trying to just like allow whatever wants to come through is so, so powerful to see, like, what does your highest self actually look like? What does she actually wear? How does she do her hair? Does she do her makeup every single day? All of these things, it's important to know what you actually want to be looking like and feeling like and doing. And this is actually something we do in Metamorphosis. I do a visualization in Serve now. So both of my programs have a moment where we visualize our highest self, either our CEO self or our most confident self, and then we have to start taking steps to actually become that version of ourselves, because if we don't, we are just unconsciously letting whatever like wants to come through, which there's not really necessarily anything wrong with that. It's just like, if you're wanting to consciously create and become your highest self, you gotta let the vision come through, and then we have to start asking ourselves, like, how do we move towards that? So the first step to becoming our highest selves or creating our highest selves is allowing ourselves to sit and visualize and kind of play in the realm of what is actually possible. What could I actually look like? And it's really fun to watch, like, some of my clients like really take this to heart, and they visualize themselves and they go to work on buying the things that they like saw themselves wearing, buying the clothes, or buying like the furniture or the decorations, or doing their hair how they visualized. Because when we do this, we put ourselves in a completely different energy. Like, I don't know if you guys saw my Instagram post, but I just was talking about like these 2 investments I made in my office and how my podcast downloads like skyrocketed after I did that. It literally just because I saw my highest self in an office like that, and I chose to bring that in my reality, and it changed my energy, and I attracted more. Because I changed my energy because of these things, I literally attracted more into my reality. Craziest thing in the world. And like I said, it's so fun to watch my clients do that as well and start becoming more and more like their highest selves, and they start like looking not like more beautiful, but they like start looking like they're glowing almost, right? When they start becoming more like that version that they're envisioning. So we have to start visualizing and noticing what we desire, right? If you don't want to visualize necessarily, you can also just start taking like inventory or becoming aware of what you desire and like who you want to be like. It's like noticing when you feel jealous, noticing feelings of jealousy and envy, noticing feelings of like deep desire and really really wanting things. We have to start like creating this vision of who we actually want to be. Who do you actually want to be? And like being honest with yourself, who do you actually want to be? So we have to start asking ourselves questions like, you know, do I want to be the person who looks like dressed up all the time? Do I want to be the person who is nice to everybody? Do I want to be the person who is super disciplined and is like always in a routine? Do I want to be the type of person who is super spiritual or spontaneous or like happy all the time or mysterious? Or like, do I want to be the type of person that works out every single day and is fit and takes care of herself? Do I want to be the type of person who is like strong and firm in her decisions? Like, who do I actually want to be? Starting to ask ourselves these questions, and this is where we can start planning, right? Asking ourselves these questions, getting a clear vision of who we want to be, and then we can start saying like, you know, where am I not really measuring up to this best version of myself? And again, I know this is like the third time I'm saying it. I just feel like I have to make it like super clear. This does not mean try to be somebody else that you're not. Like, if you're not like a spontaneous person, you don't have to like try to be spontaneous because you think that's like who your highest self is. This is like an amplification of who you already are, but just the best version of that. It's kind of like, you know, with like astrological signs, there's like I don't know what they call it exactly. I'm not sure the term, but there's like a higher self version of like an Aries, and then like a lower like negative trait version of an Aries. So like the positive traits of an Aries is like they're very passionate and driven, but then like the negative traits would be like a lot of anger and like ego and like fury type of like vibe. So being both of like those sides is an Aries. Like, you're an Aries, but one is like a higher self version of it, and one is like, you know, kind of like the negative traits, or maybe like a unhealed version of an Aries. That's like the best example I can kind of think of right now of the difference between becoming someone else or just becoming the better, like, amplified version of yourself. So don't try to be like, oh my god, when I was like 14, 13, 15, I was like obsessed with Tumblr, and there would be like so many kind of like artsy type of people on Tumblr. I don't know how else to explain it except for like artsy, like kind of hipster, and I feel like I would like try to be like that because like that's who like I wanted to be, but it just wasn't me. It wasn't authentic at all. It just didn't feel right, but I felt like I had to be that person because online that's what I was seeing that other people liked. Like that's who I was viewing with like a bunch of followers and fans, and like people loved them. So I thought I had to be that way to receive love and like be someone that I love. But it just wasn't me at all. So this doesn't mean to like choose things that you are not at all and be like, oh, well, I need to be more this way because then I'm going to be my higher self and I can only love myself if I am that way. It's looking at the parts of you that you already are and saying, can I be that more? Like, can I emanate this more? Can I bring more of this into my life? Like, if you're someone who does love to like create and paint and like just create art, like, do you actually spend time on that? And do you want to? Like, do you envision your highest self as being someone who like creates that way? For me, I see someone like very devoted to like her spiritual practice. I see someone who is very like disciplined with her boundaries and like her morning routine. I see someone who is like, this is interesting that this is coming up for me right now. I didn't even know I was gonna say this. I'm just like talking and it's coming through. But I feel like I see someone that's like always in the kitchen, right? Like, I'm like in the kitchen, I'm making things clean, I have healthy snacks, I'm taking care of myself, I'm making juice, like doing things to fuel my body. I see myself as someone who is like, I guess, makes people feel good when I meet them, which I don't do this sometimes. I am a very like social person and I love like being with people and talking with people, but sometimes I don't like go out of my way to really be that person that's like makes everyone feel really good and makes sure that I go around to every single person and I say hello and I hug them, like things like that. Things like that where it's like there are already parts of me that I want to be, like being social or, you know, being spiritual, but it's not like, oh, I need to be this spiritual person so that like I am, you know, I need to be spiritual like those other people are because that's like how I'm supposed to look. It's like, no, I desire to take this part of me and be more like that because my higher self would be. So we start asking ourselves these questions of, do I want to be this type of person? Do I want to be that type of person? Do I want to dress like this? Do I want to get ready every single day? You know, does my highest self take care of herself every single day and show up like ready for the day and like, you know, just self-care, good hygiene? Like, is that what she does? Or does she wake up and wear Henry's clothes for 4 days and just like looks gross and doesn't do her hair and hasn't touched her straightener in weeks and never puts on makeup and yeah, you know? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be? So once we have that, we start planning like and asking ourselves how we are measuring up to these things. Where am I at pretty much? We ask ourselves like, where am I at in regards to who I want to be? What am I doing well at? What am I not doing well at? And just being super honest and in integrity with yourself of where you're at, and also not being in judgment of yourself. Like, this isn't a time to like judge yourself for not being close to your highest self, but just starting to have fun with the artistic creation process. It should almost be exciting to see like, oh, I'm not really being who I want to be right here in this scenario. How can I be more like that? Like, it should be fun and exciting to take that next step. I had fun like the other day buying new makeup, like my highest self would wear. I bought the stuff for my office. What else did I do? One thing I was just thinking about today is like I want to buy more festival clothes, because like I see myself wearing like the cutest festival clothing all the time, and well, not all the time, but like any festival I go to. And I haven't really bought any new like festival clothes this year, because I've just been being lazy. I haven't been like intentionally creating my life or committing to being my highest self, which I view my highest self as doing that and creating that. And so I was like, okay, I need to start buying more like clothes and festival clothes and accessories and things that I want to wear that I would view my highest self as wearing. So start taking inventory of what you can start doing and planning what you can do. And this is where, you know, we start talking baby steps, right? You guys know that when I first started the podcast, I knew that a big part of my teachings would be baby steps, always. Sorry, I was sipping from my straw. I didn't know it was gonna be so loud like that. It's ASMR. I'm always curious, how do they do ASMR? Do they literally just turn on a microphone, or like how do they make it sound so cool? I've been like obsessed with it lately, and I started getting like TikToks, like ASMR TikToks on my feed, and I'm like kind of obsessed and I really want to know how they do it. Baby steps. So I'm obsessed with baby steps because one of the big like reasons we don't change or we don't shift like ourselves or our life is because we're shooting too big. Like, we're going too big in the sense of like, you know, we want to get out of our rut. We're in a funk. We want to start feeling better, and we start making like too big of changes, and it's too much for us to like shift into, that we just like revert back to our old practices. So if I try to just like become a completely different person tomorrow, like I woke up and I'm like, I'm gonna be a completely different person, it might stick for like a little bit, but then ultimately I'm probably gonna go back to who I used to be. Like, it's not a sustainable shift. We have to make little baby changes and baby steps to ultimately create like lasting changes, lasting change. So planning and taking baby steps, we want to start planning like, what are little things that I can start doing to, you know, be more of who I want to be. Yeah, we want to just start like asking ourselves like, what is one thing that I can do tomorrow to be a little bit more like my highest self, whoever you are visualizing. What's just one little thing? It can even just be waking up 10 minutes earlier, meditating for 5 minutes, eating one more healthy meal, or drinking more water. It can be the littlest of things, but we want to start just planning the smallest steps that we can take towards our highest self. And I think that like it really just takes that commitment, right? Like that intentional commitment to say like, hey, I am committed to being my highest self. I want to create this new version of me and it's important to me. And because of that, I am going to make it a priority to make a little shift every single day. So that's planning. And then number 3, let's talk about the execution or collapsing the timeline, right? Execution / collapsing the timeline. I like the term collapsing the timeline a lot more. I've been talking about this a lot lately because I'm very, very passionate about this form of manifestation. When it comes to collapsing the timeline, so this is really just about taking the vision, taking our plans and our baby steps, and then actually fucking doing it. But there's more to this than me just saying, you just gotta fucking do it. Well, there's an aspect of this that I just really want to talk about. Because the doing it, I mean, it is pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. It's like, okay, just take the steps, like make the habits, have the discipline, like just do it, be committed and just do it. But there's an aspect of this that I want to talk about, and it's the realization and the acceptance and the commitment that this might be uncomfortable. You might experience some discomfort, and you're gonna have to be very conscious to do this, to create a new version of you and to stop living out of like this unconscious, they say 95% of what we do is like unconscious throughout the day. It's just like running from our subconscious. So if we're wanting to become a new version of us and make these steps, we're gonna have to live consciously. We're gonna have to live intentionally. We're gonna have to get out of our comfort zone. We're gonna have to have real discipline and create new habits. All of this is not easy. It's not easy to get out of your comfort zone and be more conscious and be more intentional every second of every day and create new habits and have discipline. Actually, having discipline is like one of the hardest things sometimes. I think for me and for all of us, it can be difficult to have discipline, and maybe I'll do a whole nother episode just talking about like creating habits and working on discipline. It's still something that I'm working on, of course, but we can talk about it. But collapsing the timeline, actually taking this vision and taking everything that you planned and collapsing the timeline and saying like, I am becoming this person. It's not going to be comfortable. But then the question just is like, is it worth it to you to go through the discomfort and to commit to your consciousness and to commit to your discipline to be your highest self and to be who you want to be and live the life you want to live? Is it worth it to you? For me, when I first made this shift and I started like consciously creating who I was and how I wanted to live, it was so worth it. Like, especially if you're in a place right now where you just don't like yourself and you don't like your life and you're just experiencing a lot of ickiness and you're just like, ugh, like I just don't feel good. It was everything to me to go through that conscious like creation and discomfort, right? Because then once I started creating who I truly wanted to be, it completely shifted my whole entire life and how I feel and my thoughts. So I think it's absolutely 100% worth it to go through all of this. And all it takes is just like deciding that it's worth it to you, deciding that it matters and that you do want to be your highest self. And it's very obvious that you all want to become your highest self because of the numbers that I'm getting from the series and how like listened to these episodes are. It's very obvious to me that everyone wants to become their highest self. And I think it just takes looking at who you want to be. Do I want to be disciplined? Do I want to be kind? Do I want to be knowledgeable? Do I want to be a good listener? Do I want to be spontaneous? Do I want to be the life of the party? Do I want to dress up? Do I want to dress down? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Who is my highest self? You can even ask the universe, can you give me guidance on who my highest self is? Sit in a meditation, let it come to you. Plan how you're gonna become that person more and more and more every single day. And then like be committed and willing to be uncomfortable and have some discipline and work towards it. That's really all it takes, honestly. Yeah, I think this is one of the most important parts of becoming your highest self. Aligning to your values, super important. Coming home to yourself, super important. You know, just loving yourself for who you are. But then creating yourself, like creating the piece of art. It's actually one of my favorite quotes is by Sophia Bush. I fucking love her because I love her in One Tree Hill, Brooke Davis. But she says something along the lines of this. I'm saying this out my ass right now, so I don't know if this is exact, but she says something like, you can be a work of art. You can be a work of art and a masterpiece simultaneously. Something like that. What did she say? She's pretty much saying like you can, a work in progress, work of art. You can be a work in progress and a masterpiece simultaneously. So you can always be working on yourself and be a masterpiece. You can be always creating yourself and just come home to yourself and love you for who you are and keep reaching for more and say, no, this is who I want to be, and keep working on your piece of art, your work of art. And I just love that because it's so true. And we're never going to hit a point where we're like, oh, I am my masterpiece now. Like, I am the masterpiece. That is it. I made it. We're always a work in progress, and we're also a masterpiece just as we are right now here in this present moment. So, number one, visualize who you want to be. Number two, ask yourself, how can I actually get there? The small steps, very small steps, baby steps. And number three, okay, how do I create these habits? Can I have the discipline? Can I push myself to really be this person and do the things that I need to do to be this person? You know? And I really, really hope this episode inspires you guys to think of yourself like a piece of art and think of yourself and your life as your greatest creation. And I hope this inspires you to truly create and be intentional about your creation. So I hope you guys love this episode. I'm so glad you guys are loving this series, and I can't wait to keep creating myself alongside of you guys, and we just keep creating ourselves together and rising up farther and farther and cheering each other on and supporting each other. It makes me so fucking happy. So if you loved this episode, feel free to share it with a friend, share it with some family, share it with a coworker, share it with your Instagram followers, and if you do, make sure you tag me. And I would absolutely love if you left a rating and a review. It takes like 2 seconds to click the 5 stars, and I'm 5 away from my goal for this month. So 6 more days, and I would love to get 5 more ratings. You don't even have to write a review. Just leave a rating. This is literally, you just scroll down and you go boop, and you just click the 5 stars. I would appreciate it so much. I fucking love you guys. I hope you have the best week ever. I hope it's super magical and beautiful, and that you intentionally create every second of this next week. And yeah, and call the hotline. Okay, I love you guys. I hope you have the best week, and I will catch you in my next episode. Bye.